What's up, everybody? Welcome to another week of the Shift Change podcast. This week, I sit down with Chris Roberts. Chris is the director of EMS for Adair County. Adair County, Greenfield, the town that got basically rocked, devastated by the large tornado that we had several weeks ago. Chris was assumed incident command of that event. Had to make some decisions on how people got transported, who got transported. It was a large-scale event that routinely in public safety we tabletop, and then in real-world application usually doesn't go as planned. There's just the nature of how many people are under the umbrella. There's usually some hiccups. This seemed to go smooth while most of us were watching the news coverage, the weather coverage of the large-scale storm event. Chris was obviously right in the middle of it, mere meters away from the tornado at one point to his station, his EMS station that housed his apparatus and equipment supplies was just destroyed, took a direct hit. The hospital there in Greenfield obviously took some damage too. They had to evacuate. Not only did they have casualties, injuries that they had to respond to in the path of the tornado, but then they had to evacuate an entire hospital. So if you can just put yourself in that position for a second where you're in charge of that process and that you are basically the peak of the decision tree, with other people that are in that same position in their respective professions. So law enforcement, dispatching, like getting resources in from other counties, where to transport the injured, who to transport, how to set up basically a triage section, and then to do all that in basically a window of time from when the tornado hit, which I think was around 4:30 to about, he said, I think 10:30, 11 o'clock when things started slowing down a little bit. So just a lot of stuff, emotional, physical toll that it took on him and his department. And then what a fine job everybody did on top of that. So interesting episode. I was really interested to hear kind of how that day went from, when he got up, there's some days you just wake up and you're like, man, today's weird, and I don't know why yet, but it just seems like it's going to be weird, and then bam, something like that happens. So enjoy this one. Chris is a good dude. He's been around a while. We do have a little history, him and I, so listen to that, and that's kind of a cool little story. But outside of that, thanks for listening. And as always, make sure you rate the show. And if you want to share it. That'd be cool too. It just helps other people find the podcast. But until then, thanks everybody. Work hard. Be kind. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Thanks for meeting me.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for coming down.
Let's give the listeners a little background on how we know each other. So let's go back to the day that you rode your bike up to, because this is kind of funny to me, that you rode your bike up to the ambulance garage, and I just happened to be working that day. How old were you?
Probably 13, 14.
No shit.
Yeah.
And do you remember what you said, hey man, I want to be a paramedic someday. How do I do that? How did you know that early?
I don't know. Just, seeing you guys run around town and work, and there was a little bit of an interest there. I had no clue I'd do it full time in this capacity, but just some interest.
Mom or dad in the business?
Mm-mm.
Aunts, uncles, nothing?
Nope.
Just saw us doing some stuff and was like, this looks cool.
Yeah.
No shit.
Obviously every little boy wants to be a firefighter, and you see the fire trucks roll out, but for whatever reason I wanted to take care of people.
And interesting enough, we are right here, right now, in a fire station. So you are currently, tell us what you're currently doing.
Well, because
In life.
Yeah, in true EMS fashion, we're on multiple departments and stuff. So I'm the ambulance director in Greenfield.
Yep.
I've been over there since 2019. Prior, I worked in this county and a couple other places. But member of the Winterset Fire Department, member of the Greenfield Fire Department, just for some daytime help over there, because pretty slim pickings over there.
And you live over here in Winterset?
Yeah, I live over here.
Graduated from?
Yep, 2009, graduated high school here, so doesn't seem like that long ago, but that's 15 years in EMS, which is hard to believe.
I just said before we went on air how much more gray your hair was than I remember. We crossed paths shortly in West Des Moines, did we?
Yep.
Is that right? And I don't remember for how long. It doesn't matter now.
I'm trying to remember if we ever worked a truck together, but at least shift change and coming in and leaving.
We knew who each other were.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we ever worked because when you rode your bike up, you were obviously too young to drive, and I was just probably starting in the business. So I don't think we ever crossed paths there. But it's just interesting how that all works. So you go to Greenfield every day, Monday through Friday. It's an office job, basically administrative job.
Yeah, for the most part. It's an 8 to 4, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday I work the truck, a 12-hour shift, just the day portion, because management, I can't work nights.
Yeah.
I certainly love to, and used to work a lot more. When I started over there, I was one of about 3 paramedics on that service. We're fully staffed now.
What does that mean, fully staffed, in your terms?
Yeah. It's a comfortable schedule. We have 24 people on the roster.
And they're all paid?
They are. Yep, we're paid service. Of that, one is a driver. We have several EMTs. A lot of those live locally. And then we have 6 full-time staff.
That are always in the station?
Yep. We're in-house 24/7. We'll probably talk about our station here in a little bit, because it no longer exists.
What used to be the station?
We're hospital-based. Love it just because we get to do skills, when we're not out on a call. You get to kind of hone your craft a little bit more.
Sure. Well, I can tell you every time we land there, which used to be quite often, and now anymore we're trying to figure it out. Everybody's been super helpful and interested in getting involved in what we're doing. And I'm sure the ER helps. Or is excited to have them there because they are valuable assets. 2019, so pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
How did your department manage that?
Well, that would have been about the time I was working several truck shifts a week and really no office. And I'll tell you just a personal story. We ran a call for a person with COVID that essentially wanted to talk it out with us. Wanted some advice, didn't really have a medical problem, just I'm COVID positive and how do I handle this?
Yeah.
So, of course, we were wearing full PPE, the gowns and all the stuff, and got a refusal on the patient and essentially kind of did some advice and stay home, if you're sick, which has never changed.
Sound advice.
Yeah, and we're walking back to the ambulance, and I had one of those face masks on that was like plastic and put together by a rubber band, because we were getting PPE from wherever, and it flew off.
Yeah.
And I just looked at my partner and I said, you know what people don't say is our job sucks right now.
Yep.
Like, it just isn't fun.
No.
But fast forward a couple years, and it was kind of the normal thing. Just the extra PPE was nothing but a thing at that point. And
what kind of strain did it put on your department? Because you just got thrust basically into an administrative role, and this seems like a good gig. And then all of a sudden, bam, 2020 hits, and we have a pandemic.
Yeah, I didn't have much time to get my feet underneath me. But we were keeping a lot of things in the hospital that we hadn't kept before. So there was maybe a lack of a comfort level there with some of what we're keeping. We're keeping people on Airvo and ventilated patients, and we're not in ICU, and maybe the comfort level just wasn't there. So we actually had some of our critical care paramedics that were working one-on-ones with patients. We were working essentially nursing shifts. We had a COVID unit.
Really?
So it really changed the day-to-day, and I don't know, it all kind of seems like a blur, but it almost has changed, not to get too political, but kind of the way we do medicine in general, because the old days of call up for a non-STEMI and get them right in, and they almost treat them like a STEMI, didn't really exist anymore. It was, hey, looks like things are trending down. Let's discharge them home, have them follow out outpatient. So it's kind of interesting to see how
it
things
seemed
went
maybe
way.
that people started practicing medicine instead of basically just sending it out for somebody else to practice medicine, right? Like
Yeah.
we had to figure it out.
It forced our hand a
Yeah.
little bit, and I think that was a good thing.
Yeah,
it was great for my staff. I got people that went on to the CCP class
Yes.
and gained the extra knowledge, and just because they kind of had to,
We had to.
they wanted it.
And there was nobody to take people either. Like,
Yep.
like let's not gloss over that. Like everybody was full with positive COVID and whatever you think of our response to it and how we handled it politically and even socially is a whole different conversation. But in our business, I think the other thing it did too is it really. And I'm not real political when it comes to our job, but you remember a couple years before that, I think the state of Iowa said EMS isn't an essential service.
Sure.
We're not going to give you, and this was the Republican Party that did that against, and they said, nah, we're not going to entitle you to state benefits or collective bargaining or things like that because we don't. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah, I
COVID
remember that
hit.
well.
Yes, and I remember it too because because it affected our livelihood, and they took certain amenities away from us, which was our ability to basically negotiate wage and benefits, right? And only EMS.
Yep.
So, and then COVID hit, and they went, shit, our bad.
That's
you guys,
what they do.
So it turns out you guys are real important, and now you're working your ass off, and you're struggling emotionally, and you're struggling mentally because of the long hours and the fact that you have to put these biohazard suits on for every goddamn call you go on. And oh, by the way, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Let's make you essential, and you're back.
Yeah.
I still don't know that we get to negotiate wage and benefits, but whatever. We got a cool little sticker. And so what that did long term then is that people realized, I think the pay went up, right?
Yeah.
Like the wages pre-COVID, I don't think match what post-COVID is. Not that I'm in the loop because I'm not. I'm not going to claim to be, but I was up in Carroll the other day and I was talking to those guys and I was astounded at how much they make, and I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Yep.
You all deserve it.
I've always been pretty impressed with hospital-based EMS. I feel like we pay pretty well, at least in the rural environment. And we did at least one, I think we did 2 wage analysis kind of during the COVID, right at the end of COVID as
Yep.
well. There was kind of a longevity bonus in there for people that stayed with us throughout that entire process. And I think it was eye-opening of, this is what your paramedics do. We can do. And maybe a little bit more respect there as well. But I have a great group of medics. I have 3 nurses that work on the ambulance under the nurse exempt status. They do a great job as well. My EMTs are great, but I think it's just seeing EMS as a profession when maybe it hasn't been. But yeah, I think it did well for us.
We've kind of did it to ourselves, and it's probably a conversation for another time. But that whole educated versus trained, that whole profession versus trade, we did it to ourselves.
Yep.
We probably said yes to some shit back in the day before you and I were even around, just to get us in the door, and we made some concessions that were semantically lesser than just to do what we're doing, and then we're kind of paid for it. Now we're just kind of getting back into it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean, you look back at the white paper and us being under the Department of Transportation, and
Yeah.
just the way we were organized from the start was kind of wonky, I feel like, and we're a healthcare entity. I think that's why I like hospital-based EMS, because we do healthcare when we're not on calls, and
Yeah.
then healthcare again when we are on calls.
You guys do 24s?
We do. So we changed, I'm trying to think of when that was. It's at least a year ago, right towards the end of COVID there, to 224s a week. So full-time staff just does the 224s, and they're out of there.
Good.
They love it.
They love it. Well, you've been in the game long enough to know now that good leadership goes a long way for people wanting to do their job and doing it well. And if you're telling me that everybody around your place loves it, it's probably a reflection of you, right? So people don't leave bad jobs; they leave bad leaders. And if
Yeah.
everybody's willing to do work, and you've increased your staff, and they enjoy working for you, and you seem to be getting product out of your leadership.
There's a buy-in there.
Right.
Everyone's,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
So that's good. Good on you, man.
And we're going to talk about it here with the tornado, but I have a roster of 24 members, like I said, and I said, hey, we need help, need all available EMS to the hospital, and I got 24 members that responded. And that includes one gentleman from Minnesota. He was up there for his full-time job doing a training.
No shit.
Yep.
Well, let's get into it. So you managed COVID, you did COVID for what, and then now post-COVID, you're clipping right along. Seem to be doing well, I assume. And then all of a sudden, let's go through the day. What day was it? How long? It's been how long now?
It was May 21st. So go to work that day.
Yep.
Normally,
start there.
Yeah. When I go to work, I don't normally wear the uniform unless it's a Thursday when I'm working on the truck, and that was is it a Monday or a Tuesday? I'm thinking.
I think it was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Only because I was working also.
Yep.
And it was a 24, and I seem to have been doing a lot of Tuesday 24s.
But for whatever reason, kind of the situational awareness was, ding, 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 something's up here. They're talking about weather for a day at least, 12 hours in advance. And I thought, well, let's wear the uniform today,
Yeah.
And routinely, so how we staff is we staff one truck 24/7, at least a medic and an EMT. But we have a second truck available, and we'll staff that when the first truck goes on transfers or they have a lengthy 911 call or whatever it is. So I'm normally half of that second truck, so I'm going to get involved if there's something, and why not look the part? So wear the uniform over there, drink the coffee, do the daily stuff, fight the daily fires. I distinctly remember having some equipment in my office. We just got a Techna mount for our Hamilton ventilator.
Oh, nice.
So I carried that across the street to our EMS station, put it over there so we could get that installed.
So your office is
Yeah,
off.
so my office when I started, it was in the EMS house. So we have a hospital on the south side of a residential road, and on the north side of that residential road is an old 4-bedroom house that they essentially put a Morton building on with a couple ambulance bays. So when I started, my office was over there, and then, long story short, I took a director of nursing position. I'm not a nurse, but right at the end of COVID, I think kind of because nobody else wanted it, and we were managing traveling nurses, and that kind of came with its own deal. And did I mention I'm not a nurse? Yeah. So it just wasn't a good fit. So sure. I did that for about 8 months and said, hey, can I go back to EMS? Because, I understand EMS. And luckily I was able to, and have a great director of nursing now. Him and I actually share an office, and that's in the hospital.
Okay.
So, office in the hospital, and then everything else across the way there. Brought stuff over there. It's interesting to think the decisions you made, randomly in 10 seconds, just, I'm going to bring this mount over there and lay it in the garage. Well, we lost that, It's just interesting.
Sure. The cascade of events that lead to that day.
Yeah.
So it's got to be after lunch by now. You can probably tell that stuff is building, and I can tell you my awareness was just, I was in Knoxville. We obviously knew the storms were coming just because it's part of our day, right? We talk about the weather, and I don't particularly watch TV or watch the news, especially the news. But we knew the event that day was going to be large. We knew that the storms were coming from out west, and they were going to move east, and they were going to impact us in Knoxville late evening, early night time, I think it was.
Yeah, I think like
bedtime-ish.
Yeah, that would have been about your side of the state, and then my side of the state was like that 4 to 6, I think, when they were expecting it.
And so we were watching radar. We were, maybe we did a flight that day in and out. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I checked the radar. We're looking at the big cell, and we're like, oh, shit. So I turn on the TV because, they're going to be covering this event despite local programming, right?
Yeah.
So we're on it, and they're talking about this kind of stuff. And then what did you guys do? Was there any pre-planning involved?
Absolutely. So I'm going to aim it go back to on my way over that morning. We had a system come through that morning.
Okay.
And so there are some protocols in place to send out storm watchers, normally the volunteer fire departments, emergency managers. Yeah. Our ambulance actually gets involved in that.
Yeah.
So our hospital's policy is anytime there is a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado watch or a tornado warning, that one ambulance that's staffed leaves our station, goes to the Greenfield Fire Department for an assignment, and then gets sent out to look at the sky, essentially.
Yeah.
We have some training, obviously, for that annually. So we did that in the morning because we had a system come through.
Wow.
In fact, I believe there was greater than 70-mile-an-hour winds, so they blew the siren that morning. It really was pretty minor looking back on it, for what came that afternoon, but
Sure.
we did the thing. So that's kind of how we operate. Throughout that day, we do like a daily huddle at 10 a.m., so we were talking, hey, prepare for weather. We're going to have it. Somebody in the state's getting it.
Yeah.
Who's getting it? But it looks like it's coming right to us. Kind of a reminder of the policies and the places we go and all those things. Just stay situationally aware. So fast forward to that afternoon, about 3-ish, I believe, it started to really pick up. And from what I remember, Corning had one on. Was it Corning? Villisca, I believe.
Villisca, yep. I remember hearing that.
I had
on
one on the
TV.
ground down there, and there was a meteorologist I follow on YouTube Live, Ryan Hall.
How far is that from you? Do you know?
Yeah, it's probably a solid 40 minutes
Yep,
at
okay.
least, southwest.
Yep.
But this Ryan Hall does great coverage. He kind of sits in a studio, and he's got multiple screens up. He's
seen
got
that guy.
storm chasers out,
Yeah.
and it's nice because you can see it real time and then see the radar, and he's giving some commentary. So that's who I was watching. And then at whatever time, dispatch said, hey, send out your spotters. We're in this warning now. And we sent our spotters out. So being on the Greenfield Fire Department, I drove essentially a block over to the fire station from our EMS station where I was parked. Ended up picking a good place to park. My truck was totaled, but I was able to drive it. I'm still driving it.
Is that no shit?
Yeah, that truck is totaled. So
It is?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. But broken window, body damage, it's still drivable.
How many ambulances are in your garage at once?
We have 2.
Okay.
Yep. Just in the realm of situational awareness, at about 14:30, so about 2:30 in the afternoon, I sent out a message. I was looking through our IM respondings. I just said, hey, looks like it's going to get bad in about 20 to 30 minutes. Is there anyone available to staff our second ambulance? And that's just something we did preemptively. Better to be staffed and not need it than not be staffed and need the people and scramble.
Are you in communication with surrounding counties?
Yeah. So listening to all the traffic, our emergency management over there, we had a direct line of communication with the fire chief, emergency management, and me. And then the sheriff jumped on there as well.
Sure.
But good open line of communication, and in fact, our emergency manager was running from it at one point, saying this is what it looks like, and it's coming towards you.
Oh.
So we had a good solid 20 minutes heads up. That it was tracking for us from about the Bridgewater area, southwest in our community, all the way up towards Greenfield there. So I feel like we got a little bit lucky just in the timing of the day. A lot of those homes weren't occupied. We did have the advanced warning. People heeded the warning for the most part. So definitely could have been different.
Had it been in the middle of the night, you think?
I think it would have been a totally different situation.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. So you're sending your ambulances out. Everybody's shit. This thing's coming. We ain't getting out of it. Now what?
Yeah. So I had a nurse exempt call me. Said, "Hey, I can grab that second ambulance." I said, "Great. Meet me at the fire station. I'll be there in a little bit." I was out in a fire truck. We were sitting west of Greenfield, and the emergency manager went flying by. As he's saying on the radio, I can see it. And I could see it at that point.
You saw it too?
Yep. And so it was me and 2 other gentlemen in that fire truck. Said, hey, it's right there. Yep, we all agree. And the driver says, should I follow him as the emergency manager goes by? I said, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a
so
good idea.
we get back. We're going east. We go into town. I said, hey, drop me off at the fire station. I'm going to hop in this ambulance, and we'll have a second ambulance. So I did that. Right as we pulled into town, just torrential downpour of rain. I got out of the fire truck into the ambulance, just soaked in the 10 seconds it took me to get in. Holler at her. She comes out. The fire chief is yelling at the other 2 guys in the truck to put the truck in the garage. It's here, get in the basement type of a deal. Well, I didn't catch any of that. But her and I end up jumping in the ambulance, and we go south. We were dispatched to a residence south of Greenfield, really south of Fontenelle, for some people trapped in a basement. They were uninjured, but the house was hit, and they needed assistance getting out. So we had both ambulances going towards that scene. Hindsight's 20/20. I would have done stuff differently if I would have had a little bit more time to think about the decisions that I was making.
Yeah,
but I take off and I go south with that other ambulance, and I follow. We have all of our eggs in one basket, just moving south. And as I get just past the Casey store on Highway 25 there in Greenfield, my partner, I'm driving, she's yelling that shit's moving out her window. So I'm like, great.
Like debris.
Oh, yeah, like houses and stuff's flying around. So I'm driving as fast as I can going south. They said that tornado was moving a mile a minute, so it didn't take any time to get through town, about a minute or less. And we had to have missed it just by seconds. Hospital surveillance worked right at that corner. We have a building right there, and you see us go through, and then you see damage right after. So we had time to get just to a gravel road south of Greenfield. Had our first ambulance continue on to what they were assigned to. We turned around, said we're going to go check on town. Immediately as we're going north on 25, the fire department's hollering. They have people trapped. Yeah. Pull back into town, and it looks totally different than it did 30 seconds ago, a minute ago.
When we were down in Knoxville, we obviously were watching this on TV, and they had the storm trackers out, and you could see the enormity of this thing, right? And it tore up a wind turbine, and that was a big deal, right? Several of them, which, however you think about those things. And then so we're like, this is a big deal. The impact for me is when they cut to and they said, hey, we have a debris field basically on radar in the town of Greenfield, and they said usually means that's a direct hit. So the radar is picking up the things that you're describing on their satellite radar. And so it took the storm chasers a while, but they flipped a UE, and I kind of know a little bit the area because I grew up around that area. So, I mean, I'm not unfamiliar with Greenfield and as far as the layout of the town and how it looks. And they drove into town, and they came up into that town from the south side of that Casey's.
Yeah, which is the same path I took.
Yes. And then they flipped that camera around, and I was like, holy shit.
Which is what I said out loud as we were pulling up. Right. It's holy shit.
Which was just the tip, basically, because when they got in there deeper, you're like, even bigger holy shit.
Absolutely. And so, we see it, we immediately start calling for the extra resources. In fact, I think I used the vocabulary, hey, I need MCI resources, and I specifically said I need these ambulances from surrounding communities. I think Polk County has a pretty strong MCI plan. We don't have that in Adair County. We have mutual aid agreements and, normal business day to day, but I bet we have some pretty strong plans after this.
So in that moment, who assumes command?
So I did. It took a little bit for me to get the courage and say it on the radio, but somebody needed to do it. So I said, hey, I'm going to be incident command. This is our staging area for apparatus. This is our treatment area. And that moved several times.
Are you mirroring the ICS training that we all had to have through EMS that was basically born from 9/11?
Yeah, trying to. So, essentially we're really focused on operations at this point, and it's, hey, we need to have a staging area for all the apparatus that we've called in. We need to have a path in and out of town, and we need to have a treatment area for all of the triaged people. So, obviously, triage was happening at this point. The one thing that I'll say is we had at least 35 injured is what we put out in the press release. And, of course, that doesn't account for the people that took themselves private vehicle or a neighbor took them. And we had 14 transports. And I think we might have even listed that as at least 14 EMS transports.
Because two surrounding hospitals. You did not take them back to your hospital because what people might know is your hospital got hit.
Yeah. What I tell people is our hospital probably took like a 60% hit. Yeah. Our EMS house was situated just northwest of that, and it took 100% direct line hit.
Total loss.
But our hospital was not sustainable for patients. In fact, we evacuated our hospital, had a couple ER patients.
So not only did you have to deal with citizens and their injuries, you had to deal with admitted patients in a hospital and so where did you pull resources from?
Everywhere. I will tell you, we asked for help, and like I said, I said specifically, I need Creston ambulances, Madison County, Dallas County. Like I specifically gave them some options, and I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but our dispatcher did a great job that day.
Yeah.
She must have put something out on a regional channel of like, hey, this happened, who can go type of a deal, and man, we had a pile of ambulances.
I would be interested to know if there's a protocol for that statewide, because, and I would go back to the Perry shooting, and all the resources that came from there in such a short amount of time. So I'd be interested to follow up with like a dispatcher and be like, is there some sort of protocol that says when shit gets real and I need a lot of people quickly, if there's a, you know, basically a red button they push. And so these surrounding counties are depleting their county of resources.
Absolutely.
So there's a trickle down effect, right?
There is. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, and then they got to backfill in the event that somebody in their community has some sort of medical event. So it's I don't know how to describe it. Like you're basically
how I describe it is you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You know, we think of it up here at the fire department of, do we send all of the trucks to the mutual aid fire, or do you leave one back or two back? Because
But I think the interesting thing to mention is the public doesn't know. The public assumes, and rightfully so, if they need help and they call somebody, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what else is going on in their community or in their local environment. And response times matter a lot. And if you're, I can get you an ambulance, man, but it's going to be, 20, 30 minutes because there's a tornado.
Absolutely.
So you're getting resources, you're triaging people, so people are still calling 911, so your comms are still up.
Yeah, comms worked, and I'll tell you, Adair County in 2019 when I came had already bought into the statewide radio system. They had a lot of money invested in that.
Do you do EMD?
We don't. We don't yet,
sure.
I guess how I'll answer that. But
sure.
I do think it's beneficial in a rural environment, and eventually it'll make its way out there.
Yeah, sure. Another conversation.
Absolutely. But no, dispatch did a great job. We had one dispatcher on at the time that I know of, and then I know a supervisor came in as well to assist her. Like I said, just asked for help. We got help from a tremendous amount of places. I had ambulances with names on the side of the ambulance from 2 counties away. So pretty impressive.
When you're going on these responses and you're transporting people, are you bringing them back to a central location and then deciding a different ambulance, maybe taking them to a rural hospital?
Correct. And that spot essentially kind of by default was Casey's.
Okay.
It was right at that intersection. There was ability to get in from the east and in from the south right there. North was a little hairy. Some houses over the road right there. But then we tried to move it to the Greenfield Fire Station, which I didn't know was damaged until I laid eyes on it. Of course, that's where my vehicle is. And, okay, this is not going to work.
How close is the fire station and the EMS garage?
About a block. It's really, the fire station is a block away from Casey's, the ambulance garage, and then eventually we had this staging treatment area in the Greenfield lumber parking lot. Yeah. We were able to open up Highway 25 and get that pathway north going. Especially for those big traumas that we were taking straight to a trauma center.
We, obviously, I was in Knoxville, we were watching the radar. As soon as it cleared the metro, obviously our helicopter said, we're going. So they came, and I don't know if this was true or not. Did they stage at the airport in the event you needed evacuation?
Yeah, that was an interesting deal. So I got to ask for a landing zone. We have helicopters coming in. I believe we got 2 of them.
Well, I don't
know of 3, but
I don't know how many
2
you got.
Is what I remember. I said, hey, let's do the high school football field because I had heard that area of town was untouched. I hadn't laid eyes on it, but the way the path is, it had littered debris all over the county fairgrounds, and the airport's just north of that. So I figured the airport was inundated with debris and probably not a safe place to land a helicopter with all the rotor wash and stuff. So, and then somebody said, no, airport's fine. So, it stuck to this path, and it destroyed everything in that path, but the airport was just outside of it, and it was fine. So we were able to land them out there.
All right, so then clearly we thought for sure, like, we're just going to be evacuating people out of this thing all night long, and rightfully so. Our helicopter in Knoxville got requested to come. The storm was between us and you. Obviously, we couldn't go.
Yep.
But certainly anticipated after it moved out of our area that we were just going to be up all night and just evacuating people and willing to do so. Like there was no qualms about that. I was really surprised at how few.
I will tell you, the 14
air transports that were out of that place.
Well, I think it's because we took them by ground, even to a local hospital just to get them into some level of a trauma facility with more hands on deck very quickly because that storm was still hanging around. You know, it was either we're going to drive into the storm going
Yep.
into the metro areas. We know we can't get helicopter right initially.
Yeah.
But of those 14 transports, those happened very quickly.
Our Des Moines aircraft did go to Creston.
Yep.
I assumed for a injury related to the storm.
Yep.
And so, where was your closest facility from where you were to transport?
Yeah, so from Greenfield, you have Greater Regional Health down in Creston. It's about 18 to 20-ish miles, and then from there it'd be Winterset, about 24 miles.
Guthrie Center.
Yeah, you're looking at...
That's farther.
I'm sure it's further than 24 miles north there.
And then the metro is a 50-minute transport.
It's
for you?
an hour. If we're
it
pedal
is?
down, it's right at an hour.
Really?
Yep.
And that's all interstate.
Yep.
So that's a haul.
Yeah, it's Highway 25, and then it's all interstate.
Yeah.
from
And
there.
I forget how far south you are from I-80. Your Highway 25 goes a long way to Greenfield.
It
It's
does.
not a quick drive. And that's 2 lanes, so you're traffic there. But once you hit the interstate, then it's all. Man, how did your crew do? Like, how is your crew doing?
We had a mix. We had people that wore it on their face that I could see we were all tired, obviously after that, but I could see that it was taking its toll on some people. And then there was other people that, how are we doing? I'm fine.
Yeah.
And they just kept going, And so we were able to actually completely pull our staff off covering our area for about, it was 4 days that we did that. I had Mercy Ground Ambulance down there. I had Panora Ambulance. I had Creston Ambulance. Just a combination of...
How late into the morning did you work?
So that initial night, we were... I'd say things calmed down 10:30-ish. We were
Really?
kind of back to a normal status, trying to figure out how we were staffing for the night, what the game plan was.
How late were you getting fewer calls for people that you, or were you guys, like, how did the search go? Did you wait for somebody to say, hey, I think, or were you guys just going from
so there was
house to house?
There was a grid search, and I can't say it was that organized at the beginning. What I knew was we sent a team from the Greenfield Lumber Store Southwest, and there was a team that started at Secondary Road, which is way southwest in town, and worked their way northeast. So they essentially met in the middle, and they went house by house. And then from there, it became a little bit more organized for the secondary and the third search of kind of accountability of those houses and making sure they're checked off.
Was there any fatalities?
There was. So we had 4 fatalities related to the tornado in Greenfield. 3 of them were DOA, and 1 was transported to Creston and died as a trauma arrest in their trauma center.
Shit.
Yep. And I believe that might have been the patient that the first helicopter went for.
So your crew, you're able to get some rest. Like, are you able to pull your crew off and say, hey, listen, I need you guys to sleep?
Yeah,
or at least do something. But how could you?
So pride's a heck of a thing.
Yeah, I know.
And I will tell you, so this is my 3rd tornado in 15 years.
For real?
Yep. So I was in Creston in 2012. I was part of the crew that was working that night.
No shit.
EF2, not a big deal, right? But still eye-opening for that was 2012. I was a 22-year-old kid.
Yeah. Did you have the Winterset one too?
Yeah. So
because that was 2 years ago in April.
That was 20. It was March, I believe. I can't remember when in March.
2022.
22.
Yeah.
Yep. Now the interesting thing about that one was we had bought a parcel of land south of town, and we had sold our house in town here. So we were trying to get into a rental, and we were going to build on that property south of town. Of course, during COVID and things were stupid,
yeah,
and
sure.
we didn't do it. Long story short, but we had a rental house over in Greenfield. That rental house was catty corner from the Casey's there, and it was totally destroyed in the storm.
And the one in 2022?
The one in 24 here.
Yeah.
Yep. But in 22, of course, my family lived there, and that's where we rode the Winterset storm out. And then I hopped in our 2nd ambulance and essentially chased that storm all the way over to Madison County.
Were you working for Madison County EMS at the time?
I was not,
but you were working
I was
for
on
Greenfield.
Correct, and then I was on the fire department here. So
yes.
We did an all-call for the fire department here, and of course I was a little delayed getting there. Had to, get my partner back, get into my personal vehicle, drive over here. So I distinctly remember being very irritated with our chief here because he said, "You're staying with me." And I didn't get to do any boots on ground, hands on. I was IC with him, and I was organizing the event in this room. Looking back, did that happen for a reason? I don't know. I gleaned a lot of information that night about how to run an event.
Yeah.
Got to see, how a joint unified command works. Got to see some of the things that we practically put in application in Greenfield. That was
helpful.
It was, yeah.
I've always wondered, because we train on this a lot, right? Like these incident command types, these multi-systems response, mass casualties, these kind of things, and I've never commanded one, thank God. But I've always wondered, like, it always seemed to me it didn't matter how much we tabletopped it. In real life, it was going to be a shit show.
Yep.
Like, it was going to be chaos. It was going to be disorganization. It was, at least moments were going to be, not the whole, because the whole thing is to try to prevent that, right?
Yep.
Like, but even when I would listen to radio traffic, like the Perry shooting, phenomenal job.
I agree.
Right?
I listen to that too.
But the radio traffic is almost endless, and you have to keep in and I know the guy that was at least EMS command up there, to try to keep track of that shit and be like, what did I hear that 10 minutes ago that Air Med 1 was on the ground?
So he ended up being,
is the helicopter coming?
I believe, the staging officer later that night.
For you?
Yep. So it's interesting how things...
I've been in contact with him, and I know him. He's a good dude, great guy. And I really wanted to do a show about, the response to the shooting. But there's some investigation stuff's going, and I'm understandably so. Like, I'm interested in I'm not interested in naming names or doing whatever. I'm interested in, like, how he started that day as a normal, like you did.
Yeah.
It was a normal day, but there's some stuff on the horizon. There's an impending. I don't know that today's going to be a normal day, so I'm just going to go ahead and put my uniform on. Did he have the same premonition? And then how you get basically thrust into the position of, all right, I'm here. I'll take command. I got this shit. It's going to be a shit show, but we're going to get through it. I need all hands on deck. And just processing that information as it comes in has got to be slightly overwhelming.
It's decision fatigue. It's making decision after decision, and you're making them very quickly, and you hope that they're the right decisions. Yeah. But you have to think that, that's based off of years of training, education, life experience. Like, there's a reason I made some of those decisions. They came from somewhere. But definitely like herding cats right at the beginning. And that's just from an apparatus standpoint and a personnel standpoint. Was trying to get organized. Hey, I need ALS ambulances here. I need BLS ambulances here. Reds, greens.
Yep.
In this area, because everyone wants to help.
Yep.
And everyone essentially ended up doing search and rescue. So I had some unoccupied ambulances in the staging area. It was just, we got to get a handle on this, and then from there we can start systematically. Yeah. And I think we did that. So one of the things that we ended up doing was to create the joint unified command. Originally it began in that lumber store parking lot, but then we moved off site. We went to the DOT building just east of Greenfield, and we ended up in conference room there. Yeah. So we were separated from the incident, which was helpful from an organizational standpoint, and of course radio contact remained. We had people boots on the ground for staging and treatment officer and things like that. But some of those decisions were able to be discussed without the chaos of that event happening right there. What I got when I was at the lumber store was a lot of people coming up doing face-to-face requests. Hey, we got this. Hey, we got this. And, you might be the guy, quote unquote, at that point. So they just come to you because that's what we've always done.
Yeah.
And I think by removing, like, me and the sheriff and the emergency manager from the scene, it allowed it to function a little bit better, and we were able to make higher level decisions in that command center and give them the resources that they were requesting, and just organize it top down.
Sure. And then eventually it's I've always said the best way to start figuring out a problem is just working on the problem, and then if you just keep chipping away at it, then eventually it gets to 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
Right? And then, okay, I've kind of seen a noticeable downward trend in people's needs and decisions that are being made.
You start scaling things down.
Now what can we do? How can we trim the fat, so to speak, so we can get people rest, hydrated, recovered, whatever they need to move forward. So 10:30 at night, the incident's over for the most part. You're calming down. There's a lot of, like that old saying, there's nothing left but the cleanup and the come down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
did it take a while to get down after this thing?
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So my wife was over there. She ended up coming over with the Winterset Fire Chief's wife, and they made 300 sandwiches at the high school, which was our makeshift hospital eventually that night.
Yeah.
So by the time I saw her, it was good to give her a hug, and I'm eating a hamburger that was cold.
Yeah.
Because it sounded good,
Yeah.
right? And the Red Cross lady said, "Are you the guy that's new to me?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not new." I said, "This is my third tornado in 15 years as I'm eating a cold hamburger. Like, it's just another day, lady."
Yeah.
But, we had great resources there. She ended up being a great lady, and she kind of ran the shelter there. So you meet a lot of different people. It's very impressive, the amount of resources that were deployed in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
From the private sector, public sector, and in that EOC, it's interesting how people kind of are different places when an event like this happens. But the gentleman who started our first kind of EOC meeting was an Iowa State Patrol officer of some level. I'm not sure if he was captain, lieutenant, but he was in charge over in Minden of at least law enforcement initially. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Hey, this is what happened in Minden, and this is how it worked." And we said, "Great, let's do that here.
Yeah.
Like, let's shut down the town. Let's
not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Let's do what works."
Yep. And we just learn a lot from these experiences. And did we do everything right in the situation? Absolutely not. Are we willing to learn and share our experiences with people and make the next event better?
Because that's what it's about.
Absolutely.
Right? Like hindsight,
Yep.
The benefit of hindsight.
That's the goal, is just taking care of people.
And did you do things right based on what? A protocol or somebody's opinion? Or what do you mean by that? Like,
yeah, did we follow the ICS system to a T? Did I have all of the roles and responsibilities filled with Joe Blow in this one? And no, probably not. But
no, because we're not in an urban area that is overpopulated, right? Like,
did 14 patients that were injured get timely medical care and transport to a definitive
Yes.
facility? Yes. So at the end of the day, you can feel proud about that.
Did you guys do some sort of debrief?
We did, yep. So we did several critical stress debriefings. There were several teams down there. Red Cross team was there. DPS's team was there as well. They have some therapy dogs. And it was great. Had a lot of people that had never been to one of those before.
Yeah, sure.
On my staff and the fire department and stuff. And even a lot of them walked away saying, "Hey, that was good to talk that through."
Yes.
So.
Even if you don't.
Or just listen to it.
Just listen to it. Just be there. Like, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. Like, me and you compartmentalize a lot of shit. We have for 20 years. It's who we are.
Yep.
But it is nice to go sit somewhere and go, "Oh, fuck, I think the same way too." Like, even if you're saying it to yourself, you're like, "Oh, I kind of feel that way," and not knowing you're the only one that does. Right. How's the town doing now?
Great. So here a couple weeks ago, I went down to southern Missouri for my grandpa's celebration of life. So I was gone from the Thursday through the Monday. Mm-hmm. And just in that amount of time, driving back in Monday morning, it was like, wow, there's significantly less piles of debris. There are basements that are totally filled in. It is impressive.
I was really impressed with Winterset. When I was in Winterset the day of that tornado. We had just left town, and then you hear about it coming in, and so the day after, I went down and helped a family that I know whose house was destroyed. It was a rural setting out west of town, and it literally looked to me like a third world country. Like, we just got basically strafed by some sort of like aircraft, because there was burned out cars.
Yeah.
There was burned out trees. There was like the landfill as I knew it was gone, and you're just like, it literally looked like a different.
It's hard to get
world.
your wits about you. I mean, and same way in Greenfield, there were some intersections in town that I had to stop and like, where am I?
Yes.
Or the 3 days into it, we were getting dispatched for like some welfare checks, and they give us an address, and maybe that address.
Where's that address now?
It's, hey, where am I at? What 100 block am I in?
Yeah.
Because this looks way different than
It looked like somebody called it an airstrike.
Yep.
And it was real humbling.
For sure. it gives you a lot of respect for what Mother Nature can do.
The other day we came into Greenfield by air, and I've got a video on my phone. I don't know how legal that was. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
As far as policy goes, and I'll share it with you, and maybe I'll put it up on the show's Instagram page. It's clearly a line of delineation.
Yeah.
So we were traveling the opposite direction the tornado did. So the video starts in the northeast part of town, and we're going southwest to the football field because that's where we're going to meet your crew.
Sure.
And so we're going against the grain basically, and it literally looks like one swath of your city was airstriked.
Yeah, so our initial count was 157 homes destroyed, and they initially said, that might be up to 200 as we, get into this.
Sure.
And then the official number of either destroyed or damaged was 368. So that's, a town of 2,000. That's a significant population.
Big percentage.
Yeah.
What's the town doing these days for fundraising and resources? The other thing I wanted to mention too, the Winterset thing comparative to the Greenfield thing, about how quickly the day after people were coming, like piles of shit was just gone in a matter of days.
Even from like a volunteerism standpoint, so we had a local co-op that was pulling into town over there in what feels like 5 minutes after the event. I'm sure it was an hour after the event, with a grill. Said, hey, where can we set up?
Yeah.
And, make however many hamburgers and stuff. So there's logistical stuff that you just don't think about.
Yeah.
Even a tabletop exercise, like you said, like where are we going to put the volunteers? Where are we going to put the food?
We're about to have a lot of people. So the other interesting thing we heard was that the town shut down basically egress in and out of your town.
Yep.
So people, what was the purpose of that? You just didn't want
It was to control it a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
So obviously there was some self-dispatching even from the public of, hey, I'm going to go over and help this person, or I don't know anybody, but I have 5 chainsaws and I'm going to go over there.
Yeah.
So it was just trying to get a handle on it.
Yeah.
And I think the State Patrol did a great job. I don't want to do traffic control for 12 hours at an intersection.
No.
That does not sound fun.
No.
But, then we had a tagging system for both residents and volunteers that were non-resident. So we were able to do some hours tracking because there is a financial component as well.
Really?
So there's the ability to recoup some hours. There's some tracking that needs to happen. So a lot of that on my side was after the fact.
Did you guys come up with that?
So our emergency manager had a tagging system. I think a lot of them do that they were able to deploy pretty quickly. So that kind of helped streamline things. But I know the first night into the next morning was real bogged down at those checkpoints. It actually made travel difficult for our ambulances getting out with sick and injured. So more things to think about. What's their route of?
Because you have two-way. Highway 92 goes right through it. That's a main thoroughfare, and then Highway 25.
Correct. It intersects right at Greenfield there, right at the Casey's.
So you basically have 4-way. You have in any direction.
Yep.
A lifeline out of town.
Yeah.
And they were all blocked off.
We did put a checkpoint at all 4 areas of town.
Yeah.
And it was mostly to control the inflow. Outflow was okay. It wasn't being checked necessarily.
Sure.
But
so we got about 10 minutes left. Not that we have to keep it on a time, but my phone will time out in an hour, which is not a big deal. Ragbri.
Yeah.
It's coming through Greenfield, and anybody from Iowa knows what a big deal that is. You are not an overnight stop.
No,
we're
a meetup lunch town, I believe is what they call it.
Okay.
So we're in between the 2 towns, the 2 overnights.
Winterset being one of them.
Yep.
Where's the one before that?
I believe, is it Atlantic? Yeah,
makes sense.
On the way from Atlantic to Winterset.
To Winterset, they're going to go right through Greenfield.
They are. And there really wasn't even a conversation of, are we going to adjust the route? Are they going to not come? It was, we're coming, and we're going to financially help you with some fundraising efforts. So we actually changed our route to route them through the heart of the damage.
Yeah.
Just because folks are naturally curious, they're going to want to see.
They're going to come anyway.
They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So we might as well control it. But yeah, Ragbari's still on. That's Tuesday, July 23rd. Got a plan for that.
How are you going to cover? How is your department going to cover the amount of people It's going to be hot,
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
you're going to have, I don't even know what the RAGBRAI population is, 10,000 bikers. Is that even close?
Yeah, I got to get back to that meeting here. So they said what's registered for that day was 16,164 riders. So
Even if 90% of them come through your town, that's a lot of people that are going to be dehydrated coming through. I assume you're going to have first aid stations.
absolutely. Well,
And,
three of
this
those.
is, right? So you have 3 of those.
Yep.
You only have 2 ambulances.
We do. We actually, and this is huge. We were contacted by a fire department in Illinois who, I believe, they thought that we lost an apparatus, and I said, nope. We were able to pull both the big apparatus out.
Oh, good.
But we lost a building,
Yeah.
and they said, oh, well, we were wanting to donate an ambulance to you guys, and I said, okay, but we didn't lose an ambulance, and they said the offer still stands. They bring that ambulance to us Wednesday, so we will have 3 ambulances.
Nice. And they're going to staff it?
They're not going to staff it. They
You guys
essentially
are.
are just giving us an ambulance.
Oh, to keep.
Yeah.
Yours to have.
It's a 20-year-old ambulance, but it has the 7.3 diesel. It's solid. It was fire department kept. You have to think it was washed after every call. And
Holy
it just
shit,
looks
man.
solid.
What a great...
So I'm sure there'll be some publicity around that when they get here tomorrow.
Well, they're going to do this tomorrow.
Tomorrow they're dropping it off. And they wouldn't meet me halfway. They said, we're going to bring it all the way to you.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Just to...
What
speaks to the brotherhood and sisterhood, I think, of it.
Yeah, man. What are the chances somebody just said, "Hey, you want to give them this old? We got sitting
Yeah.
around, we ain't using it." It's been a long time since I've covered any RAGBRAI event, EMS wise. Do they travel with their own?
Yeah, so Care Ambulance out of the eastern Iowa area there, they have 4 ambulances, and they staff with a provider, a nurse, and a critical care paramedic. So they have 4 of those. They do mostly registered riders on route care.
Okay.
And then they also have 2 motorcycle medics that have kind of BLS set up. They can deploy an AED, that type of thing. So they're great to work with. Their director actually came to the last meeting and kind of explained their operations. I said, hey, my one big burning question is we don't have an emergency room in our community, and are you guys going to do the transport to the other emergency rooms, Creston, Madison County, whoever might be the closest? Or are you going to look to us to do the transports and kind of transfer care? And they said, nope, we're going to take care of the transports.
They're going to figure out where they are in
Absolutely.
the state, and they do that all the way from the
They
day
do.
one all the way across the state.
And that was great to hear. So it's not that we don't have a job to do, but our job's going to be essentially business as normal plus any of the spectators.
So you are going to take care of your community members
Yep.
in your town, regular 911 response.
Correct.
And in the event that somebody
Yeah,
in town needs something, you're going to handle that too.
Absolutely. Or if they get inundated and they
So
need a
just
5th
because they're a
ambulance or
registered RAGBRAI member, if they're in town looking at the damage and they have the chest pains, you
Yeah.
don't have to necessarily call Care Ambulance and
No,
come
no,
get one of
it'd
your
be
riders.
us.
It'd be you guys. 911 response.
Yeah, and we have a plan, obviously, to be over one regional channel with them, so everyone would know that there's a patient having chest pain wherever. If they were closest, sure they'd go and start care and things like that. But we're going to staff our 3 ambulances. Fontenelle's staffing their ambulance. They're a transporting BLS ambulance. The city of Adair's staffing theirs. They're transporting AEMT level, but they're just going to stage in the community of Adair unless they're needed. Stewart has 2 ambulances staffed that day, same deal, and Creston has 3 that day staffed. So really, we have a wealth of ambulances we can pull in that area.
Yeah.
Way more than a day-to-day operations. Normally we have maybe 3.
I assume they're coming in on Highway 92.
They are, so they're coming from Atlantic over on 92. When they get into Greenfield, they're going up kind of on our square for the lunch area. And then when they go out, they're going south on 25 all the way down to like Orient, Maxburg, and then into Winterset on Old 169.
So they're not taking 92 all the way to Winterset.
Nope.
They're going to kind of go the scenic route.
And this is a little selfish of me, but I live right on 92, so I'm
you're
glad
okay
that they're
with that?
not. So that, at 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon when they're out of my community and I'm coming over here, I can just drive 92.
Yeah,
right
I got
across.
you.
I think
I
the
got you.
support vehicles are coming that way.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Shortest route.
Yeah.
Between 2 points. Well, listen, man. Nobody knows what it would have been like to be you, but sounds like you did a good job.
I appreciate that.
What's the town doing now? What's the town's needs?
I think really it was several weeks in, maybe 2 weeks in, they said, hey, we're going to move from please don't send us diapers and toiletries and that type of thing. Please send your cash.
Yeah.
It shifted to a monetary donation was the big need, and I'd say that's still the big need.
And that's getting disseminated?
It is. So I'll use Ragbri as an example. So they're going to create one QR code that riders can come in and scan and donate to one specific place.
Okay.
And then from there, it's going to be divvied out.
Sure.
So we have a meeting to say, hey, this entity gets this percentage and this entity gets that percentage.
So where's the QR code available at?
So I don't know if Ragbry's published anything yet, if
Okay.
it's out there, but it's going to be plastered all over town.
Are people would it be shared over social media as well?
Yep.
So you could send it to me and I can put it on the Instagram page.
Yeah, once I see it, I'll send it to you for sure.
Which is, keep in mind, not a huge following.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, the thing is going to go viral.
Yep.
And so you're going to get donations in from the world, basically, not just Ragbri.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. Anything else you want to add to that event? What a day!
It was a day, and I think that EMS understands it a little bit. Those of us that have been through a big natural disaster like this, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Sure.
A little bit of a learning curve for our hospital incident command folks, to wrap their head around. Hey, it's not like the lights went out and we're back to business as normal tomorrow.
Right.
It's a long-term recovery here. But they're doing great. I just want to thank all the responders, the public, anybody that volunteered or, even if they prayed for us. We appreciate that.
It was a big deal, man. I can tell you, even watching it on TV, it took your breath away. You're like, I can't believe this shit happens in the world. Well, take care of your people. They do a great job. I know every time we come down, we're happy to see them. Make sure they're taking care of each other. And then just let us know what you need, man. And by us, I mean the community and us and other services, and certainly us in the air. We're happy to come down to your place any day.
Appreciate it, Jason.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Shift Change Podcast. I need to ask if you would leave a rating. I think that it helps people who are new to the podcast find it quicker. It doesn't do me any good, but it does help other people that are looking for the Shift Change Podcast on Spotify or Apple. It just comes up quicker the more ratings that you give it. Whether you give it a 2 or a 5, it doesn't make a difference. It just helps other people. If you need to get a hold of me, contact me via my email, the show email, which is talkshiftchange@gmail.com. Or you can message me on Instagram at talk.shiftchange. Excuse me, at talk.shiftchange on Instagram. As always, thanks for listening. I could not have imagined how well this podcast has been received. So, as always, I appreciate it. Work hard, be kind.